This tutorial is about doing error handling within Async and await using JSON data. The tutorial will show you how to capture errors such as no internet connection, server error, invalid response, and key not found. I will now demonstrate how to capture key not found. As you can see, because it includes an invalid key, the key wasn't found within the JSON payload. The next error I would demonstrate is no internet connection. As you can see, there's no internet connectivity, so it shows the error on the screen. The next error I'll be testing for is invalid response. So these are the type of errors the application can capture. So to start the tutorial, please create a new SwiftUI application. Create a new file, create a new Swift file. Called post. Within this file, we need to create a new struct that conforms to codable, and then add the following variables: let user ID int, let ID int, let title string, let body string. This struct includes the payloads that our JSON network requests will be expecting. Create another Swift file and name the file network manager. No, network managing. I think a better name would be network manager protocol. Next thing we need to do is to define our protocol. We'll call the protocol network managing. As it manages the network. And the protocol will have one function signature, which is func fetch data codable from URL async throws. This function returns a generic object and also fetches data from a URL. The next thing we need to do is to create another Swift file. This file will be called network error, and the purpose of the file is to capture the type of errors within an enum. Network error, enum, network error, error, case, no internet connection, case, server error, case, invalid response, case, key not found. And these are the cases that our network manager will validate against. Create a new Swift file, and for this file, name the file network manager. The network manager class will have one method, as derived from our protocol network managing. So I'll just add the stub now, which is our function signature that we need to implement. On lines 11, delete the following. And then we're just returning a generic function. A generic object. So what this function will do, it will fetch data from a URL and decode it to a codable type, which is a generic type. The next thing we need to do is to use the URL session shared property to fetch the data from the provided URL. Let data response equals try await URL session shared data from URL. The next thing we need to do is to check the HTTP status code of the response. Guard let HTTP response equals response as HTTP URL response, else throw network error invalid response. So what that line does, if the response is not HTTP response, throw an invalid response error to the calling routine or to the variable that's referenced in the fetch data function. The next thing we need to do is to check if the status code indicates a server error or not. So if the status code is between 500 and 600, then an error has happened. Network error, server error. The next thing we need to check for is to see if the response code includes a valid response, such as a successful response. So we check between 200 and 300. Contains HTTP response status code, else. If it's between 2 and 300, then it's a successful response, else it's a network error, invalid response. And the next thing we need to do is, if everything was okay, so there wasn't no server error or invalid response, then we need to decode the fetch data. I type in the following: return try JSON decoder, decode T, which is a generic, from data. So we decode the fetch data to the provided codable type using JSON decoder. think there's an error somewhere. JSON decoder, decode, open bracket t, dot cell from data. Just try that again. Decode, t, dot self, dot from data. And there's still an error. And what the problem is, on lines 11, T needs to conform to codable, so we just add the colon, codable. And also, this return method on line 29, that should be on lines 30 or after. No, that's incorrect. No, that should be where it was previously, which is there. And now the next thing we need to do is to catch any decoding errors, such as key not found. And we do that on line 30, so just type in the following. Catch, let decoding error as decoding error. Switch, decoding error. Case dot key not found. Throw network error key not found. Default throw decoding error. The next error we need to catch is URL error as URL error. If URL error dot code is equal to dot not connected to internet, throw network error dot no internet connection, else throw URL error. catch. So the purpose of the catch, the last catch, is to handle other type of errors that wasn't defined up above. Throw error. I'll just compile it. In the next tutorial, we will capture the errors to be shown on the content view. Thank you for joining us. If you found this tutorial helpful, please comment, like and subscribe. See you next week.